In this episode, I'm actually reposting a guest appearance I had on another popular fitness podcast called Fit Father Project Podcast. I was so proud of my interview and it just finally came out. I wanted to share a little snippet of what we talked about on the show for an episode on mine. And besides talking about my early career and how it evolved into the over 40 crowd because of my 15 years of experience running gyms, training the over 40 crowd, but also what happened post COVID that kind of forced me into the podcasting role and online fitness. But I also go into my buckets of fitness, which I always talk about, which are movement, stress, sleep, diet, and inflammation, while keeping your social life intact. So if you'd like to catch the full episode, just go over to Fit Father Project Podcast. But if you'd like to hear just a short little clip, stay tuned.
So I know COVID changed your life in a sense because you were running a lot of like actual physical gyms in Orange County, and then like those that kind of shut down for a while. So give us a little insight into what made you get excited about this life of like teaching people online over 40 about this stuff?
Yeah, so just over the last 15 years, being a brick and mortar gym owner, part of the struggle with that is doing everything. I was the accountant for the gym, the bathroom cleaner for the gym, the marketing, the website guy. So it was real hard to like really focus and hone in on what I was really, truly passionate about. And right from the get-go, it was finding what gravitated towards me mostly. And I think in Orange County and running our program of doing semi-private training, which was just 2 to 3 people sharing the cost of a trainer. Because at that time, past the 2000 market crash, it was real hard to afford a private trainer. And just the over 40 crowd seemed to be the thing that was coming through our doors and got really good at helping them out. At the time, I think I was 28 when I started. And part of the reason 15 years later, going more in the online world and running podcasts, was I was training all these over 40 clients and still using a lot of the same strategies that I'd used back then. But the running joke is at that time, I'm the younger trainer training the over 40 crowd and they're not getting the results they want. I'm like, come on, man, you got to diet a little better. You got to work harder. You got to put in an extra gym day in there. And lo and behold, I finally turned 40 3 years ago. And I'm like, oh my God, they were all right. I'm doing more than I used to, and I still can't keep the bosses I was looking for. But since then, I'm the personal trainer. I refuse to quit. I owe it to my clients and my audience to, fight the good fight. But my main tagline is without giving up your social life. So I am all about health and wellness, all around longevity, like we talked about on my show with you, but with that caveat that I still like to have a social life. And that's what I put out there to my audience. So that's who gravitates towards me. So I came up with all these hacks to play the system.
Well, I want to spend a big part of our conversation today getting into the hacks that work for you to maintain this like life fun, but also like fitness structured balance. But before we do get there, I want to talk about just like the space generally, like professional to professional. It's an interesting place where there's just like what I consider so much noise out there, so many different things people could be focusing on. And then there's a couple signals that are like important things that maybe the principles are a little more timeless. Like when you describe the landscape of discussions related to health and fitness and maybe like even over 40 stuff, what is the noise? How would you describe it? And what are the important signals that are actually important for people to?
So a lot of the noise is there's so much information out there, people doing everything all at once. And that's the worst way to do it. You get the New Year's resolution crowd coming in real hot. I'm going to work out 7 times a week. I'm going to crush this diet. I already signed myself up for like 2 marathons. All that is just a recipe for disaster. My mindset kind of changed after 35, after I had a back injury, lifting heavy gym equipment from gym to gym, nothing related to actually working out. And my mindset kind of changed that our bodies are fragile. We need to slow this down and start listening to it. So that's where I changed from 35. And then, like I said, by the time I hit 40, I started realizing you can't just do the same things you were doing in your 20s and 30s and trying to burn your body up. This body's only meant to last so long. And with all the stuff out there with longevity and overall health for everyone, our minds will be able to make it past 100, but our bodies are so fragile. How are we supposed to do that? So my whole philosophy at 35 switched. And what I like to preach out there is everyone just slow down, do things more mindfully. You don't have to go to the gym 6, 7 days a week. I personally do 3 days a week, half-hour sessions. And I just do more time under tension, slowing all the exercises down and really focusing on mind-body control and using more muscle fibers for everything. But that's just a small part of what I'm doing. I like to talk about the 6 buckets that I put everything into. And real quickly, those are movement, stress, sleep, diet, and inflammation. And even inflammation has been a new one for me over the last 3 years. And fine tuning what you put in your body, what causes inflammation, all of it synergistically has gotten me better results than probably back to where I was in my late 20s.
Yeah, and that goes to show, I think those results were possible after 40. It requires a deeper, more holistic understanding. And for example, like you didn't have that inflammation layer in your previous version of knowledge when you were in your 20s because it wasn't relevant. Yeah, it wasn't relevant at that point. But I think that's what happens when we get past 40 is the margin for error gets smaller. The body becomes like you just see the feedback of doing stuff that's not proper. Like it hurts more, or like you don't have the exact resilience. But then when you get to shore this line up, you can be great. So let's get into those buckets and maybe give me some of your best hit hacks that you've discovered personally and also through the show of like, what's the best stuff that you've realized? And maybe it all fits in the lens of how it also fits into a great life and social life too. Let's get into some of your favorite hacks in those areas.
Yeah. So sticking with weight training, not everyone has to use that, but it is a modality that I've spent the last 15 years of my life doing. And our whole philosophy as personal trainers is building lean muscle mass. There's a three-part prong series to it, meaning when you're working out, you're stimulating your muscle to grow, you're burning calories while you do it, you're hopefully on a high protein or enough protein diet that your body is burning that protein and the energy expenditure from that you benefit from. And then ultimately you raise your BMR or your basal metabolic rate, which means that's how much lean muscle mass you have on your body. You are now burning more calories even at sleep. So that's always been our goal as personal trainers, and it's done very well for our clients over the years. But you start getting into it a little more, and like I mentioned, adding more time under tension. Not only over 40-year-olds need to be doing this, younger people need to be doing this as well. And it's just something to add in your routine. You don't have to only do this. For example, time under tension, doing a squat. Most people try to stack as much weight as they can, doing a simple squat and rep out anywhere from 6 to 12 reps. And with time under tension, you're basically taking half the weight off. And instead of 1 to 2 seconds finishing that movement, you're taking 5 to 10 seconds to finish that movement. You are only going to get at most 4 to 5 reps of that same exercise. You're going to recruit more muscle fibers while you do it because you're working on the eccentric and the concentric, the slowing it on the way down. People call that negatives as well. And of course, the concentric pushing back up on like a squat. So you're recruiting more muscle fibers, you're getting stronger because it's just a more efficient way to work out. And spending more time on this type of thing is just putting more quality on it so you don't have to do as much. The whole theory when I first started back in my 20s, it's like you have to tear these muscle fibers down with heavy weight to get it to respond. And that's not true. You just need to stimulate enough with your muscle skeletal system to get a response from your hormonal glands. And you'll adapt. Your body will grow more muscle. And that's the main goal. So going back to slowing everything down, I've had a back injury. I'm sure people in the audience have had similar things, or as you get older, you got the knees and ankles and everything. When you cut the weight in half and slow everything down, I feel great all the time. Now I'm watching my brother, who's just a few years older than me, still working out the same old way and crying about his joints. He just got tennis elbow again. And it just doesn't happen when you're focusing on the lighter weight.
So that sounds great. And that would be like so let's say we're taking a squat. We might now use less weight. We'll lower down. Eccentric lowering portion of the squat might take 5 up to 10 seconds. Are we also going that slow on the way back up in the concentric, or is that a little more explosive or pretty much match pace?
It's pretty much match pace, but I'm more going for 5 seconds down, 5 seconds up. So the total rep takes about 10 seconds.
That makes sense. You do 10 reps and you're at like a minute and a half of time under tension.
Yeah. And then on the way down, maybe holding that position for 1.5 seconds to really activate more glute muscles. And it's easy to do when you have the time to think about it and feel what you're doing. You'd be surprised like how many more muscles are engaged in that same movement that you were doing at a fast pace.
And it's a more mindful way because you're really focusing not just on getting through the number of reps, but the quality of each rep.
Exactly. And then other things come into play too. Breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, holding your rib cage down, breathing through your nose like you're supposed to. Runners always talk about that, but it plays a role in weightlifting too. When you're repping out as fast as you can, it's hard to put all these things together. But when you got 10 seconds to finish this, you got time to think about the rest of your day while you're trying to finish this one rep.
Yeah.
So
got it. So that's cool.